Meeting of the City Council of the City of Orange Township, held in the council chambers, City Hall, 29 North Day Street, Orange, New Jersey, on Thursday, November 13, 2014, at 6:45 p.m. I'm going to do a roll call. Councilman Coley? Absent. Councilman Corbett?
Here.
Councilwoman Eason?
Here.
Councilwoman Gone Butler?
Present.
Councilman Johnson?
Here.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
Here.
Council President Williams?
Present.
Also present, Ms. Smith, Deputy Municipal Clerk. Margaret Hamir from the Clerk's Office. Ms. Lascari from the Finance Office. Mr. Townsend, City Attorney.
No,
Or represent-
Legislative Research Officer.
Legislative Research Officer. Megan O'Hanlon. And Mr. Lurch for consultants, budget consultants. The requirements of NJSA 10:4-9 et cetera, the Sunshine Law has been met. The notice was sent to the Star Ledger and published with the Orange Record on November 6, 2014, posted on the bulletin board in City Hall, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. The purpose of this is to review the calendar year budget 2014.
Good evening. The Finance Committee decided collectively to have a budget review, and hopefully we'll be doing this going forward in the years to come. And this is to review the calendar year 2014 budget and to see where we are in our spending and forecast through the end of the year, and then ask questions as we prepare for calendar year 2015. We will take the public questions at the onset, and then the council will go into their back questions. And if there is a need after the public questions, because Mr. Lurch will be given a review, if there is a purpose, if there is a need to open up public question after that point, but we have to control to make sure this is a very focused meeting. At this time, and what I'll do is I'll let Mr. Lurch give his review, we'll have our questions, and then we'll go back to the Q&A with the council at that time. Mr. Lurch, do you want to give your review?
Thank you, Council President. The council should have received a copy of our report, which is entitled "The Projection of the Current Fund Budgetary Statement as of September 30th, 2014.
Mr. Lurch, I apologize, and I apologize for interrupting him. I want to let you know, we've stated that the auditor, Mr. McInerney, would be here. Mr. McInerney is stuck in traffic, and he is en route. People may have heard there is a bad accident on the New Jersey Turnpike. He is coming back from Trenton, and I believe somewhere at exit 8 of the Turnpike there was a tractor trailer that exploded. So he was stuck in the midst of that, but he was en route, or is en route to this meeting. Sorry, Mr. Lurch.
Thank you, Council President. We did our budgetary projection, and the budgetary projection is based upon the available documents that were provided by the officer, the finance officer, and most of those reports were dated as of September 30th, 2014. That's what we relied on for the projection. So essentially, there was 9 months of actual data, and then we have 3 months worth of projected data. With respect to the payroll that we used to project the total salaries for the city was the September 2nd payroll, and we had the actual payroll, and we used that in our projection as well. So if there were any changes in personnel or salaries between September 2nd and today, they would not be reflected in this report. The report projected, as I mentioned, projected the salaries, the other expenses, and the detailed people that constitute that. What I'd like to do is, I kind of did an executive summary, and if I may, that would be on Schedule A, and it's entitled, it's about 3 pages into the report. And Schedule A is entitled Key Highlights. And really what I did, the executive summary outlines in the salary and wage accounts the shortfalls that we are projecting right now. And the shortfalls are as follows. The mayor's office is a projected shortfall of $87,000. The business administrator's office is a projected shortfall of $67,000. The planning division is a projected shortfall of $42,000. We have a minor shortfall in rent leveling of $2,000. Small one in finance of $4,000. The community services, the administration, we're projecting a shortfall of $61,000. We have another small $3,000 shortfall in adult services. The recreation department, we are projecting a $202,000 shortfall. Street maintenance, we're projecting a $27,000 shortfall. Parks, Parks is a $5,000 shortfall, and lastly, buildings and grounds, $7,000 shortfall. The total projected shortfall for the salary and wages in those line items that we just outlined for you is $507,000. I'd like to make this comment. We looked at the individual accounts and we highlight this, and the shortfall is based upon the council-approved budget in those accounts. And so without a transfer, without some action, those accounts will certainly be overexpended. But the total, let me just make this comment. Those lines are short $507,000, but there are monies available in other salary accounts that are not going to be expended in full. So the 507 is what we're short. The departments that appear not to be spending their full budget are the city clerk. There should be $52,000 left over. Inspection and licensing, we have about $59,000 left over. The police department, based on current spending trends, we're projecting that there will be $256,000 remaining. The fire department will have $122,000 remaining, and the court $51,000. So to those 5 departments that are operating to the good, we're projecting that there'll be about $540,000 remaining in those accounts. So net in the salary account, it's almost a break even, because you have $507,000 in shortfalls. You have $540,000 that we're going to think is going to be left over. So net, the total salary in accounts for the city should be to the good by about $33,000. And that's out of a total budget. This city council approved a total salary budget just shy of $25 million. So as I said, just to kind of tie that up, the good news is overall, you should just about break even on the $25 million. I did give some footnotes, and I don't want to really dwell on it, but I just want to share that with the council. We footnoted on the bottom some of the cuts that were made in the budget on the approved budget by the city council, but that apparently were not made in the actual payrolls, and I kind of footnote that down on the bottom.
At that pause, I'd just like to announce that Councilman Coley has arrived at 6:57 p.m.
You want
You want to let him finish with the footnotes, Councilwoman Eason?
Yeah, thank you. Let me just read some of our comments, and our comments. The footnotes really relate to those departments that we're projecting the shortfalls. With respect to the mayor's office, the city council recommended that the chief of staff budgeted salary be cut by $52,000. and that the budgeted aide salary be cut by $22,000. That pretty much constitutes the $87,000 shortfall. Those actions apparently were not done. The business administrator department, the city council recommended that the deputy business administrator salary be cut by $52,000. Again, that's contributing to the shortfall. The planning division, city council recommended that the deputy director of planning be cut by $35,000. The finance department, the city council recommended the vacant position be cut by $73,000. The community development administration department, the council recommended the deputy director salary be cut by $32,500. And lastly, the street maintenance department, the deputy director, city council recommended that the deputy director of streets be cut by $32,800. Moving into the next item, the next item with the other expense. The other expense, right now, we're only projecting that 2 line items will be short. Well, 3, but let me deal with 2 first. The first one is the general liability auto and property insurance account. We're projecting a shortfall of approximately $60,000. Our recommendation is that the council consider funding that shortfall from an insurance reserve that you maintain from year to year. And then secondly, the telephone account, we're indicating will also be short $20,000, which our recommendation will be you consider a transfer for that amount. The next item, which is really the one of the greatest concern, I think that needs to be addressed, and I don't want to prioritize any, but certainly of the greatest magnitude. So let me put that. The greatest magnitude, and that is based on our analysis, we're projecting a $1 million shortfall in the employee group health prescription account. Now let me just share. The city is pretty much on target with its regular group health costs, with its dental and the other ancillary insurances. But the item that we want to call your attention to is specifically with the prescription. I'd like you to turn the page to Schedule B. And Schedule B is just a snapshot of what the city's being billed. And I'm not an insurance expert, but I believe that the city has some form of a self-insurance for this prescription plan. So it's based on some actual claims, and there's probably a service fee included. But by order of magnitude, in 2013, the average cost for prescription to the city of Orange was approximately $92,500 a month. So the city spent $1.1 million for prescription. 2014, the cost did go up, and the city budgeted for it accordingly. The cost went up to an average of $150,000 a month, starting January 2014. And quite frankly, that's certainly slightly more than what the city had anticipated. I believe the city budgeted, we budgeted $1,440,000. So the city budgeted approximately $120,000 a month, which would have been a 30% increase. But the real concern is, during our analysis, we actually took a look at the August charges, and the city paid $294,000 out. And September, the cost rose to $346,000. So that's August and September is literally 300% greater than the average bill was in 2013. So based on the present structure and the present program for these benefits, we're projecting that the city will be short approximately $1 million in the prescription line account. I'll just make a couple of brief comments for this City Council and for the public. What I'd like to do is just make some brief comments on the rest of our analysis and not go through every line item, but just highlight some of them. Page 1 is all the salary accounts. I pretty much covered them. That's the pluses and minuses. I think we covered that in the executive summary. Page 2 starts all the city's other expenses. And we show all the other expenses charged out in full because under the law, the budget actually lives for a 24-month period. So really, we only highlighted the ones where we thought you were going to run short or where there's a clear excess. But I want to just make a few observations. I'm on page 2 and about 6 or 7 lines down the city attorney's office. The city council budgeted $417,000. The city only spent $25,000 to date. That's that second column. That was what was spent to date, $25,000. So there's a large amount of $392,000 that remains unexpended. The bulk of that was the city council provided appropriation for certain claims and judgments there, and so even though those monies haven't been spent to date, I would think, and I don't want to speak for Mr. McInerney, but I would think that he'll reserve that money since you appropriated that, raised that money. So that's why we don't show that as a projected balance, because those claims may, in fact, still be pending. I also want to go down 2/3 of the page, and I just want to deal with the police department, if I may. And then next to fire. But if I'm on page 2, about 2/3 down, the police department, the city budgeted $345,000. They spent about half of that to date, $158,000. So clearly they have sufficient monies left of $186,000 for the remaining 3 months. And I know in that budget was certain amounts for major equipment purchases and I think some kind of vehicle purchase, things of that nature. So those monies are still available should they decide to do that. And then I really want to go to the fire department because the fire department, the budget from the city council was $607,000. They only spent $159,000 to date, so there's also a large balance available in the fire department of $447,000 remaining. And that also contains some large items, some large repairs, some large vehicles, and that money right now is being reserved since we're not aware of what direction that will take. Just moving down, I'll go down to the utilities briefly. The city will have monies left over in the following accounts. Clearly have monies left over in the garbage, which is the refuse removal. You'll have about $93,000 left over. The gas and electric account was rather mild. We're projecting you'll have at least $100,000 left over there. And your street lighting, at least an additional $30,000 available there as well. So there's a little bit over $230,000 available in those accounts for transfers or for whatever legal purpose the city council so desires. And then I just want to go to page 4, if I may. I'm on Schedule C, page 4. The last line on Schedule C, page 4, city budgeted $200,000 for judgments. None of that money has been spent to date, so that money also has been reserved again, pending whatever legal issues or judgments may be outstanding against the city. But that money also has been reserved. Really, all the legal reserves have remained reserved and have not been expended to date. And then lastly, and then I'll conclude my report, the city, the council president has requested through our office some of the detail for the payroll, and there's an appendix in this report. And that appendix is really the actual salaries that are being paid to city employees as of that payroll date. And that was as of the 9/5/14 payroll. So that was the September 5th payroll. The first column is the year-to-date. So that's what they would have been paid to for the 8-month period ending September 5th. And then that's the current payroll that we have in the right-hand column. And that's really what we used to do our payroll projections with. And that pretty much concludes my presentation.
And before we move forward, Mr. McInerney, do you have an extra copy for him?
I sure do. Hey, Frank, how are you?
Before we go into the citizens' questions and/or comments, there is a consistent question that Councilwoman Easton asked, and I don't know if this will probably go to Ms. Lascari, our CFO. Number one, regarding side jobs, example, the police officers working at Hudson City, would that be in the police account?
No,
Okay. What account would that show in?
that's paid through the trust. People give us the money for the work that's being done for their project, and we pay the police out of that fund.
And that, Councilwoman Easton, last you checked, we're still behind in submitting bills. So I guess that I'm trying to figure out, have we caught up to?
No, because, and that's why I was hoping Mr. Matt was gonna be here. Even though they are paying for those side jobs and the money has to come in first, the finance department is not sending them bills, so we're not getting the receivable because the bills are so far behind. Sometimes they should go out monthly. They don't do that. Sometimes those bills are like $10,000 and more that's owed to the city because the finance department doesn't process the bills in a timely manner. For example, Hudson City. Every time I step foot in there, they're saying they're 4 or 5 months they haven't received the bill. And I addressed that last year. So until the finance department starts sending out the bills the way they should be, we're always going to be behind the 8 ball. Because the merchants shouldn't be telling us that they're not getting their bills. I mean, they owe us money. We should be sending out the bills in a timely manner. So I'd like Ms. Lascari to respond to that.
And Mr. Lurch and Mr. McInerney, can you make a note of that? That would be the side jobs. We've had a constant concern about, and it would be the same case with the event that happened in the park, and those side jobs weren't paid till a year later. So reconciling. You had a.
But
We have to
also
go.
because the one thing that happened a couple of years ago, I'll use St. Matthews as an example. They had a cop there. The bill got so far behind, they just stopped because all of a sudden the city wanted like $6,000-7,000. I mean, it's easier to come up with 500 than it is 6 and 7 and 8,000. So if the bill were timely, like they budgeted, so they just stopped using the cop. And I don't know if the bill was ever reconciled because once they stop using the cop and you don't bill them, we don't get the money.
Mr. McInerney.
Yes, Francis McInerney, Township Auditor. We did have a problem. There was a considerable receivable due from the vendors although what you're saying is correct, in terms of, I guess there's a delay in billings, there has been a problem with Department of Transportation from the state of New Jersey, who somehow refuses to pay refuses to pay up front. And I believe that also applies to PSE&G. So those are two major vendors that help add to that problem. Now, they'll pay as long as you get the bills out, but they're not going to pay. They seem that they've been refusing to pay up front. So that I just wanted to add that helps add to that receivable that shouldn't be there if everybody was paying up front. But I don't know what's been resolved with that, and I don't believe they have given any reluctance to change their policies.
Thank you. Councilwoman Eason?
Mr. McInerney, I appreciate you saying that, but I think the key point here is we've got to send the bills out, whether they pay up front or after. If they don't get the bill, they can't pay us. So the money, we don't get the receivables. And as we get the receivables, that helps our budget. And if we don't get the money, we can't blame the vendors if the city's not doing its job.
Doing the billing. Mrs. Scarra, do you have a response?
It is a problem that we are aware of, an issue that we're aware of. We're working diligently on reconciling all of the accounts until we can get all of the data in and reviewed. It's difficult to, comply with making invoices out to the vendors. Most of the data is in, but it's still a lot of work to do. It's complicated. It's not as simple as you might think, but we are working on it.
But you said that a year ago. You said that a year ago.
I have also been extremely short-staffed, I think, as you know. Also, I have been sick this entire year, so I have not been able to help as much as I should. So please, we're pedaling as fast as we can. Progress is being made. Considerable progress is being made. That's all I'm going to say on the issue.
And Councilwoman, let me have the public comments and then. Mr. Lurch, you're finished with your report?
Yes,
and I'm
yes,
gonna
Council President.
And I'm going to open the public comments, and then we'll have a Q&A from the council. At this time, the public session is open. Is there anybody from the public that would like to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld, local businessman whose address is 268 Main Street, Orange, New Jersey. A lot of my questions, I don't have the benefit of the reports, but I have first a few questions I have to ask. It goes to what occurred at the last city council meeting, and maybe we have an explanation. Last meeting, the city paid a contractor an obligation of in excess of $1.2 million, and the obligation, we saw letters, was owed for more than 2 years. And the question that I'm having, and I've been struggling with, why that obligation of $1.2 million, that letters were written to department heads, was never recorded in a footnote in the annual audit. And I can't blame the auditor, because if he was never told, he can't report it. But that's one of the problems we're having, because I don't know how many more alligators are going to arise. Because we heard a report just now about, monies not being spent in different accounts. And you say, well, we'll shift monies from the city clerk's account of about $52,000. Well, I think we're playing games now. We're playing shell games, in my opinion. Because we haven't had a municipal clerk since December 31st, 2013. That's a mandatory statutory position which should have been filled within 3 months. So we had a position, we funded it, it should have been filled, and we're going to say, well, because we didn't fill it, we're going to take that money to help the mayor out. That's what's going to be going on here. We're shifting monies that should have been funded. You had a city clerk they're missing. The court. I think we've been missing a court administrator for how many years? Several years. Again, it's a shell game. One of the issues we had to confront is what our exposure is to pending tax appeals that are pending in the tax court. In the last 3 weeks, a chart has been made listing all the accounts. A lot of other neighboring municipalities are funding those tax appeals with bondage. Bonding, not bondage, I mean that way, bonding. What is going to be our exposure? In addition, We heard before about all this money in the police department and the fire department that has been funded for equipment. You have to remember, the snapshot that we heard is as of September 30th. From October 1st to beginning of November, we've been on a spending spree. You know, every meeting we've been improving capital expenditures. So when we talk about that money being available, let's talk about the fire engines that we just bought, the police cars. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last 5 or 6 weeks. So when we're talking about this money being available, I don't think it's available because something happened in the last 5 weeks, and I think that really has to be taken into account. But the real issue is the monthly reports. I mean, we've been all talking about the salary and S&W reports. I mean, at the last city council meeting, we asked what was the batch. We're in November, beginning of November, and they're using the first week in September. And it all comes back to certain line items are not being done. I'm scared as a business owner because in the last 2 months, 3 months, because of the bills that just came out, you're forcing out businesses. The apartment industry might be leaving Essex County. That's how bad it is, that we're hearing what's going on in Irvington, Newark, and Orange because of the tax increases and other costs. I don't know what's going to happen. And there's an economic report you might want to see because it's going on in
Mr. Feld,
Newark.
I don't want to be rude, but can you get to your question, please, sir?
Well, why didn't you answer the first question? Why the $1.2 million wasn't reported in the audit? Because we also have a question is because in the tax cases, we found out about a pilot payment.
Mr. Feld, can you just state your question so I can have them answered? So you want to know about the 1.2. What's your second question, sir?
Second question?
Is that your only question?
How much money is owed potential exposure for tax appeals in the tax court? What about our exposure for next year? We're based on the bonds that we don't even know if closed yet. What's going to be additional cost? In addition, what steps are we taking to comply with the user-friendly budget local finance notice that was just issued on October 31st? Those kind of questions as to planning we should have heard tonight, because we still don't have any projection as to how many how many short-term and long-term tax exemptions are in this city. Under the budget process, that the notice that came out on October 31st, that information should be start being provided to the council and to stakeholders. But the first question I'd like to know is, let's focus on two things. Why the $1.2 million liability was not disclosed in 2 years of, or maybe 1 or 2 years of audits. And I don't blame the auditor, because I don't think he was told the liability was there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Feld. Have a seat. I'm going to call you up, Mr. Masterman. Mr. McInerney, do you have a response to the 1.2? And Joy, can you respond to the taxes bill?
Well, first of all,
tax bill.
yeah.
So,
Madam
Mr.
President, I wasn't aware that we were going to be asked, questions tonight about the audit, but, being as that may, I'm not certain that we did not have the authorization. We had the authorization in the capital account booked. There was an authorization made.
Mr. Feld, please have a seat. Mr. Feld, please have a seat. Mr. Feld, please. Mr. Feld, please do not have a seat.
Well, I can appreciate that, I can appreciate that, and I'm sure council will give you the opportunity. We had an authorization in there. Now, whether that bill was encumbered against that authorization, I don't have that in front of me right now. So I know there was issues with that bill. I know that bill was outstanding for an extended period of time. I know that we had to make certain adjustments within the capital account in order to get that bill paid. But I'd have to give further research and get back to you with regard to that, just from my own personal, knowledge at this point in time without the audit in front of me. Okay.
All right. Mr. Starry, can you speak to the tax appeal exposure at this point?
I do not know any dollar amounts. Tax appeals can take months, years. I'm not so sure that anyone can come up with a dollar amount that could possibly be awarded to the city on any particular tax appeal. Maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I understand, these are really unknown factors. I mean, you know that you have items that are out there, but until they come through, you don't know what they are.
Okay. Any follow-up, Mr. Lurch?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd just like to follow up on two issues. Number one, the statement was made with respect to the fire trucks. Those fire trucks, I believe, were funded as part of the capital bond ordinance. So that would not have any impact on this budget report we're reviewing today. Second item, I just want to speak to the funding because the City Council was aware that you have a significant exposure in your tax appeals, and for that reason, you actually increased the reserve for uncollected taxes by $700,000. So, you know, I mean, the City Council did act prudently and put an additional $700,000 in there to fund appeals.
Thank you. Regarding, is there anybody, do I have anybody else from the public that would like to be heard? Have a question? Nobody else from the public? And we will, because we will be closing the public session. Oh, come to. State your name.
My name is Mr. Andrew Onyewenyi, property owner 132 South Essex Avenue, Orange, New Jersey. I've been living in Orange over 30 years. And one of the property that I'm referring to right now, at the time when the property was bought, I was paying $5,000 for taxes. And now I'm paying $22,000. One of my properties was increased at the rate of 113%. The other one was raised at the rate of 47%. And the least was raised at the rate of 15%. A total increase of $12,000 that I'm going to pay in addition to what I'm already paying. So I don't know how you can justify that type of increase. Thank you.
And 132 South Essex?
Yes. And 305 Mechanic Street.
And 305 Mechanic.
Yeah.
And when you gave, I'm sorry, tell me your last name again, sir.
Onyewenyi, Onyewenyi.
Why? And when you gave the amount, the original amount to where you are today, is that a collective amount that you're paying for both properties? Is that the total amount you're paying for 132 and 305?
Yes.
Okay.
22,000. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. The one is the parking lot.
Right.
Okay, and the other one is where my business is located.
And it's the total amount you're paying for both properties?
Right.
Okay, all right.
One property, let me break it down. One property is 18,000.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is 4,000.
4,000, so
The
22.
empty lot.
Okay. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Kondokar. I'm on the property 356 Main Street, Orange, New Jersey. My taxes was 19,000. So last year this increase is 22,000. This year is increase $46,000 and it's 108% taxes increase. And I have a tenant. He used to pay 29. I reduced him to 2,000 because he can afford to pay the rent. And I don't increase anything him because if I increase, he gonna going out business. He is present with me.
Okay.
So now I don't know how you guys increase like this. So there is no way we have to close the store. And I need to, what kind of judgment is? This is the, what I can say. Thank you.
Council President,
Councilwoman Eason?
Carl Smith, who is our tax collector, and
Mr. Rinaldi?
Mr. Rinaldi is going to work with him to evaluate that. And
To
they work- So
reevaluate.
that's already under
Okay.
evaluation, because he also had a concern about the square footage, the amount he was paying per square foot versus another business that were paying substantially less. So that's an issue that has to be dealt with.
Mr.
them
Rinaldi has to review, okay.
And the reevaluation team. that
Based
did
on,
reeval.
right, to have to reassess, okay.
Right.
Ms. Gordon, were you coming, Ms. Gordon?
Kathleen Gordon, 211 Park Place. Now that we have Mr. Lurch here, we have been wondering for a while. Mr. Lurch has given us a evaluation that after the reval, the average taxpayer taxes will drop about $70 per property. Is Mr. Lurch still maintaining this? Has it been reviewed how it played out in practicality after the reval was done, the taxes were calculated and so on? That's one question.
I'm sorry, Ms. Gordon, for the record, did you just say your name, just so when they're doing the minutes, did you say your name in the beginning?
My name? Yes, I did.
She did, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it, okay.
If anybody has not known it yet. The other question I have, now that I understand that the payments for police and fire vehicles purchases are part of the this is the budget and part, and not the what is the word, bond income. I am stunned that we have been talking about quite a bit that spending bond money is much, much more expensive than spending money from the budget directly, because of the yield that we have to pay. So now, seeing that budget money was allocated for a lot of vehicles and purchases, and neither the police nor the fire department has spent it, or is way underspent. I am wondering what was the point putting such purchases into the bonds. Those are the questions I would like to have answered.
Ms. Gordon, as Mr. Feld stated earlier, this spending is through September. There were several purchases after that, which we've done in the October and November meeting. And there are restrictions in terms of equipment which you can bond versus what you can purchase. Mr. Lurch, I believe, something simple as you can't bond cars. You have to bond SUVs.
That's correct.
So can you speak to, so the items that were purchased after September are not reflected in here, so we have to get an updated one. But can you speak to bonding versus buying it, purchasing it in your annual budget?
Certainly. During the budget process, first of all, the bond was not adopted at that point. And so there was a discussion, and the discussion really was emergency equipment, generally emergency equipment, generators, vehicles, things of that nature, that it was prudent to fund them in the budget because there was no certainty, number one, that the bond would be passed. And my understanding, it was the philosophy of the council that the bond would only be used for real long-term acquisitions. Mainly improvement to the roads, acquisition of fire trucks, if I recollect, and just really major capital items, not equipment type items that are replaced on an annual basis.
And also the difference, you can't bond every type of vehicle. You have to bond only certain type of
That's correct. Police cars, regular city cars, you cannot bond. Bond is supposed to have a useful life of 5 years, and the local bond law describes what you can bond. And generally, it's DPW trucks, SUVs, things of that nature.
And the first question Ms. Gordon asked was regarding the reval you gave, and on your statement on with the average homeowner based on that property amount, do you
Yeah.
have a difference of opinion?
No, I certainly do not. Let me just speak for the record once again. As a result of the reval, the average assessed value of a home decreased by 24%. What that means in layman's language is if the home was on the books for $230,000, that was the average home in 2013, that home was lowered to $175,000 in 2014, a 24% decrease. So they now are being taxed on a much lower rateable base. So to the average homeowner, that meant the savings of approximately $700 for the average homeowner.
700. Ms.
Yeah.
Gordon, no, Ms. Gordon, let him answer. You cannot come back with a question. He's going to answer it, and then we're going on to the next person. So,
You are not allowing me to
No.
question.
no. Okay. Were you
Yeah.
finished, Mr.?
Let me just continue.
Because
the whole-
he did not answer my question.
He was still answering the question, so please allow him to
Okay.
finish. And your question, and I will not allow you to come back and have a different question to come back.
No, it's not a different question. I
Ms.
would like to
Ms. Gordon?
get a response to my question
Ms.
that I have
Gordon?
asked already.
Allow Mr. Lurch to finish, and then we will be moving on to the next person. Mr. Lurch, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Council President. Once again, I certainly stand by the decrease for the average homeowner. But let me speak to the converse, and that's being echoed here this evening. The commercial properties and your multi-dwelling properties did not experience a 24% decrease in assessed value. Many of them, I would purport to say, either stayed the same or may have actually increased in value. That's not something that we do as a budget consultant. That's not something that the City Council does. That was done as part of the revaluation. So I certainly have no reason to not believe that when the people come up here on the commercial properties, that they are in fact experiencing an increase. But again, that has nothing to do with the budget.
Thank you.
He still did
Ms.
not
Gordon?
answer my question.
Is there any, state your name for the record and please ask your question.
My name is Dennis Monasebian. I'm the owner of the property at 339 Main Street in Orange. I have several questions. We heard some startling numbers about radical changes between budget and actual expense. And I would like to ask, just in terms of the structure of both the City Council and the Mayor's office, is there a person or persons who each month reviews the actual expenditure versus the budget? And if there's enough of a variance, is that information brought to a proper person to investigate further? Specifically, the drug expense was very high. Something like that is a huge red flag. And I'd like to know if either the City Council or the Mayor's office, at the first sign of that problem, began an investigation. And if that is the standard operating procedure for either the City Council or the Mayor's office. Second question is, we've spent most of the evening speaking about expenses, but we have spent very little of the evening speaking about the revenue to the city, and in particular, real estate tax revenue. As was just pointed out, although residential housing stock may have had a net reduction in assessed value, commercial properties had a significant increase in assessed value. I would like to know if the auditors or the city budget process either A, do any kind of sensitivity analysis to determine what the effect will be on revenue as tax rates go up, and B, if you've done such a thing, do you anticipate on future audits that you will have any kind of collection loss? If you have anticipated a collection loss, how do you calculate it going forward, and have you advised the City Council about that? Thank you.
Thank you. The month-to-month, Ms. Lascari, do you review the month-to-month, the budgeted, and how on track each department? And once you see that it's kind of maybe not staying the course of the budget, is there action that the finance department takes?
Well, as you know, we do give to the council every month a budget status report, so you can also see what the status is of the budget. Yes, we do look within the finance department primarily at where things stand, at not specifically on a monthly basis, but periodically. Speaking more to the prescription, as you know, it's the city is self-insured on that. You don't know from month to month how much prescriptions the population of the employees is going to use. And also sometimes new prescriptions come out that don't get tagged as being ones that would be denied by the policy. You don't know about them until they hit you in the face. So I don't know. I don't think that there's any specific drugs that have been denied by the. I know somehow to try to curtail that, but as far as a detailed analysis of if there are specific drugs that are causing this problem this year, or if it's just that a lot of people have been more in need of prescriptions, I don't know.
And do the city, do we have a broker that looks at this and decides whether it's best for us to participate in a medical plan versus being self-insured?
That I'm not sure of.
Can you review that and get back to? Okay.
I definitely think that it's time to look at it and see if we can do something better for the city.
And can you have a statement at the council meeting on Monday regarding that?
I don't know if I can have one ready on Monday.
Can you put it to?
I will see what I can do.
Mr. Lurch, regarding one department spending less than they had budgeted for and then one spending over, is there opportunity throughout the year for there to be municipal transfers? Can it be done month to month, or is there a specific time that the transfers have to be done in the municipal in the municipality regarding the transfers?
The statute allows you to do it the last 2 months of the year, which means anytime November 1st on. So you're in the transfer period now, and you're allowed to do it up to the first 3 months of the succeeding year. So you can do it anytime from November 1st to March 31st.
And could you give a clarification? So if the finance department had looked at the budget mid-year and they realized the spending trends were off, could they have made those transfers in July, or they would have had to wait till November?
The answer is the finance department never has the authority to make a transfer. Only the city council
Could they have
has.
requested the transfer in July, or did they have to wait?
They could have just notified you. They could have not requested a transfer. They could have only notified you.
So within the municipality, transfers are only done from this time period?
That's correct.
Even if it was noted earlier in the year?
That is correct.
Okay. the audit response. Do you have any response to that, Mr. McInerney?
With regard to the first question about a sensitivity analysis, that would be something outside of the scope of the audit procedures. We're really auditing historical information as opposed to prospective information. So that, from an audit perspective, is not within the scope of our engagement. With regard to the question about uncollected taxes and whether that's measured, that too is measured on a historical basis and is included in the budget in the reserve for uncollected taxes, which is an amount that anticipates that certain percentage of the taxes will not be collected in the subsequent year, in the year of the budget. And that appropriation is in there and obviously has to be matched by revenues or other cuts within the appropriation of the budget.
And Mr. McInerney, just generally speaking, with your vast knowledge of working with different municipalities, when you have seen this type of impact on the commercial community within a municipality, do you have any solutions that other municipalities have applied in this situation?
No, let me just give you a little historical perspective, though, too, for the city of Orange. I can remember not that long ago where the tables were turned, where the commercial had the advantage of being reduced significantly and the residential increased because of that. It depends on the market rates. I can remember when the White Castle's taxes went down tremendously and by tens of thousands of dollars. And that was a concern. We had just the opposite. We had the residential residents here complaining about the increase in the taxes. So it's market-driven with regard to these reevaluations, and that is something outside of the control of the city council or anybody else. It's market-driven.
And thank you. And Mr. Lurch, or Mr. McInerney, you might want to stay there and just follow up. And I just want to kind of simplify and clarify in terms of the private industry and municipal financing, in terms of if you were in a private company and you were looking at your budget and you saw the spending trends, I just want to declare that in a municipality that there is only a window of time when those transfers, even if they're noted at this time, that statutory law only allows that transfer to be done between November, and it's not like private industry. So can you just simplify?
Yeah, and that's why, just to reemphasize, the council can only make transfers effective November 1st. Today's November 13th to 14th. So this is actually a very timely meeting to analyze the budget accounts, and should you consider any transfers, you certainly have the next 2 months certainly to do that, and then the next 3 months of the succeeding year.
And just to, and even though the administration makes the request, it's the council who authorizes the transfer. Example that Mr. Feld gave regarding the $52,000 that is projected to be left in the city clerk's office. The council does not have to give the authority to transfer that money.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there any addition that you'd like to add, Mr. McInerney?
Well, I mean, I think the spirit of the question was if you identify a trend of overspending, the transfer is a way of dealing with it. But in addition, I think the spirit of the question was whether or not you can do something about it by, as soon as you identify it, which might mean cutting other costs and things of that nature.
So
there are other things. The transfer helps resolve that situation. But as in corporate, as you raised the example, if you identify an overexpenditure earlier on, there might be ways to remediate that by, potentially looking to cut in other areas, if it's possible. We've had a very tight budget and very tight source of revenues, but I think that would answer the taxpayer's question as well.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Darrell Harrington. I reside at 13 Prince Street, Orange, New Jersey. First question. The last reevaluation wasn't that underneath Mayor Hawkins' administration? And wasn't that solely just the homeowners?
No, just, okay, so I'll give you the date, so when was the last reval? Next question.
Okay. The second question was, as far as the budget year changed from June 30th, from July 1st to June 30th, to the December 31st, January 1st. When was that? Was that 2 years ago?
Okay.
My last question is, since the budget timing has changed, has the council been able to, say, better serve the municipality by having a budget out in a timely, orderly fashion, from which, you know, these situations at the end of the year where there's overspending or underspending has taken place? Has it been a better, how do I say this? How has it been a better timing of how to go about adjusting as far as the time of year?
Oh, budget process.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that was it.
I answer your questions. Under our previous Mayor Hawkins, there was an attempt to do reassessment. It did not go successfully. The last reval was, is it 2006? Do we have the date of the last reval? Do you know? It was approximately.
2006.
Okay, stop, okay, it's 2005, and that was, it had not been done at that point in approximately 40 years, so I believe the county mandated it, and it wasn't a great time to do a revaluation, but it was a mandated revaluation during that time. We changed from a fiscal year to a calendar year, Mr. Lurch, when? 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Approximately 2 years ago. In terms, has it helped us bring forth a more efficient budget? We're diligently working towards that. And this year, we will, I tell you, Councilman Coley, that's his baby this year in terms of giving his budget checklist and having it delivered in February. So, and since it has changed over to a calendar year, it has not been delivered in a timely fashion, but we are working to do that. Ms. Wilson, did you want?
Murphy Wilson, 362 Haywood. I recognize and appreciate that the review that we got on the budget, you know, we were told it was based on September payroll, early September payroll, and numbers effectively from September. My concern is that of the salary and wage categories that we were told were overages, the biggest ones were in the police department, fire department, and gas, electric, street lighting, who are notorious for being late with their bills. I mean, going back, I think Frank remembers years, you know, back in 2002 and 3, we were getting bills from PSC&G in March for, you know, November and December. They're notoriously late with that stuff. Additionally, we usually see an uptick in overtime in the fourth quarter from OPD and OFD. It's life, it's the way things happen. We usually see an uptick there. So I'm very concerned about that it's considered an overage when we never seem to have enough money for police and fire. I mean, I'm just talking salary and wages. I'm not talking all the goodies. I'm very, very concerned about that. And it ain't over till it's over. And the year's not out. Now, given that the year isn't finished, okay, his numbers are from, as he said, from the beginning of September. We have maybe 45 days left in the year. Then we have this other bomb of the prescription, this $1 million shortfall. We also don't know if any of these judgments may or may not come through. And so what this is all leading to, my question to one, what is our total budget picture? if nothing is moved, you still got the shortfall in prescriptions. You got some shortfalls with your salary and wages. And you may have some bombs in utilities. So, now, he's just explaining that you can't do any transfers until the end of the year, when effectively it's too late, because you all set limits on various salaries. That wasn't adhered to.
November 1st through the end of the year.
I understand.
Okay, I just wanted to know, I just wanted to make sure.
My point, yes, I get that. My point being, those people have already been paid. So now, the second question is, what are you going to do? The money's been given out. Now, if we end up with these shortfalls, and it's January, those people have been paid. Street and lights still have to be paid. Now what? Where's the money come from? So, how do you, if you can only do transfers, I mean, how are you supposed to police this? Okay, because what I heard this evening was that you set limits on positions and on their salary, and that wasn't adhered to. And then I also heard that you can't really make any adjustments about that until the 11th month, the beginning of the 11th month of a 12-month year, and the money's gone. It's already been paid. These people are gone. They went to Florida, and they went to Great Adventure. It's done. So now how are you supposed to police that? More importantly, this year, okay, what are you going to do now that we've identified a couple of nasty time bombs in there? What are you going to do come January? Okay, because I can't take it, okay? Reval, reassessment, my assessment didn't change. I'm residential, and my taxes are going up over $300 a month. So don't anybody tell me the taxes are going down, and my assessed value did not change, all right? So I can't take any more. I can't take any more. And I need for this council to police this and rein this in. So now, someone explain how we're going to pay for this. Where's this money coming for this huge $1.2 million bill? Where did that come from? Okay. What are you going to do with this bomb with the prescriptions and the other time bombs with utilities? And probably you got some time bombs with overtime with OFD and OPD, because it just happens every year. It just does. So those are my questions. What are you going to do about that? And where do we stand now? We don't do any hocus pocus and any shell game. Where do we stand?
And Ms. Wilson, in this scenario, with the salaries through 9/30, if the police and fire, they were not overspent in their salary and wages, so they had.
I understand.
No, I just wanted to make sure, because you were asking about that.
I understand.
So, Mr. Lurch, if we didn't move any money and everything stayed the way as it is through the end of the year, how would we fare?
Well, based on the current payroll, the city would overspend its salary accounts by $507,000. So you would have an overexpenditure by $507,000.
No, I understood that,
No,
but
don't let him answer the question.
And quite frankly, the prescription is another major issue that needs to be dealt with. Because that also is projected at $1 million shortfall. So that's really your two items.
So the $500,000 in salaries, if we didn't transfer, so you have, in other departments, you have underspending of almost $500,000 and an overspending in other salaries.
Right.
So if the council approves the transfer, then that will be a wash. If not, there will be an overexpenditure in salary of $500,000. And regarding the prescription, Ms. Wilson, we're going to have to get back to you because, and I know the council has talked to the administration regarding, are they speaking to a broker to see if being self-insured is the best option for the city of Orange, and administration has continued on the same path. So,
does that mean you're going to push a shortfall off to the next year?
We haven't gotten a request for any transfers, so we don't, and no decisions have been made at this time. But you said if we continued on that way and we didn't do anything, it would be. But that
Well,
doesn't, but we're not.
what I'm trying to get an answer to is if you budgeted for 58 million, or whatever the final number is, where do we stand right now with all of these outstanding items if nothing is done?
And the answer is $500,000 overexpended in salaries and then $1 million shortfall in the prescriptions.
Okay, and where did the money come from for the water contractor? That 1.2 mil, where did that come from? Did we have,
The 1.2 mil, that was dealt with a bond, that there was a surplus in a bond, so that's different. That's not a part of this. So that's,
Okay.
so regarding this, the shortfall was 22,000 in lights, but there was also in utilities underspending in other areas, so that probably would be a wash. But your question, the answer would be, if this council, if the administration puts a request for transfers up and this council voted down, there will be open expenditure in salaries and the prescriptions. It has no solution or request or recommendation has come before this council. This is just to make you aware tonight where we are. But in terms of the request, it has not, of how they're going to solve it or the solution, it has not been put before this council.
okay, my other question though is how do you police this? Because what I'm hearing is that we've just got this roller coaster that's run away and no one's doing anything about it.
We are policing it because we're sitting here having a meeting
Well, we're
tonight.
talking about it, but we're not policing it.
Okay, and when the council have the Q&A, you'll hear some conversations going back and forth, but I can confidently say that this council has, and I want to say, was it last year or the year before last, when we were here Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, that this council set firm that we were not transferring these salaries. The salaries were set, and that because they went upon themselves to spend over those salaries, we did not transfer the money. So we will have to have a discussion amongst the council, but that has not come up yet, and we will be discussing it after the public session.
All right, all right.
Are there any other questions from the public?
I have a question.
Come on, Mike.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Faye. This is my first time here.
And your last name, Faye?
Farrier,
And your address?
442 Parkinson Terrace.
Okay.
And my question is regarding the reevaluation of the property taxes. What I noticed with my property, respectively, is, well, I should say specifically, is that my property was devalued, but my taxes increased.
Okay.
And that's very disheartening for me.
Okay.
And I would like to know if someone can give me an explanation as to how did that come about? Or if I missed something, like I said, this is my first time.
So your assessed value went down, but
Yes,
your
it
taxes
did.
still went up? Okay. And Mr. Lurch, and can you also speak to all the parts of the taxes, it's just not the city?
Yeah,
so-
yeah, when we talk about the average, we taking all the parcels in town, and on an average, they all drop to 24%. But there's certain neighborhoods in the community that even residential may have stayed flat. I think we've heard a taxpayer say that. There could be another neighborhood in the community where the value only was decreased by 5% and not the 24%. So they would have experienced a tax increase. I think Mr. McInerney said it very succinctly. A reval is market driven. So there's different sections of town, and when they do a reval, and I'm certainly not a reval expert, but I know that they go in different sections of town, and different sections are adjusted by different amounts. So when I talk about the average, I'm doing it citywide. That's not going to be indicative for each and every single home.
And Ms.
Farrier, yeah.
Ms. Faye,
Yeah.
when the reval came out, did they get to come in your house?
They absolutely did.
Okay. And have you had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Rinaldi, our tax assessor?
Well, no,
No, tax assessor, you don't know?
No, all I know is I paid my taxes, and I did ask, what
So-
can I do
Okay,
regarding?
let me do this. As Councilwoman Easton spoke, there was a specific commercial property that Mr. Rinaldi and the Reval team are reviewing specific questions. So if you can write down your name and we have your address, and Councilwoman Summers Johnson was right here on, and if you can give it to
Okay.
her, we'll give it to Mr. Rinaldi.
She's in my ward.
No, okay, this is
I was
residential.
just saying, because she was right there. If
No,
you
she's
can,
not.
if she
Okay.
can just
What I
give.
was gonna suggest was another solution.
Yes.
Why don't we give her Mr. Rinaldi's number? She can call him tomorrow and set up an appointment to come in and see about, so he can explain to you what happened.
And exact counsel, and that's
That
because
sort of
Mr.
takes
Rinaldi
out-
will
yeah,
call.
So we will give you, get Mr.
Okay.
Rinaldi's number.
Okay,
I will get it to you so you can set up an appointment. Because when you come in, he can pull you up on the computer.
Right.
And he can tell you exactly how they assess your property by bathrooms, by bedrooms, by square footage and all of that. And I think that's what you need to go through with him so you can understand. So if you leave me your number, I will call you tomorrow and give you his phone number. I might have it in my cell phone. I might can give it to you tonight.
Okay, no
all
problem.
right?
All
Okay.
right, and then
Thank you.
have the one-on-one, and that might be helpful and help you understand the bigger picture, okay?
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Do I have any more questions from the public?
Janice Morrell, 309 Lawn Ridge Road. I have 3 questions. One, has the council enacted for 2011 and 2012, I know what you did the other night, a corrective plan? Have you received a response back or a status report on prior corrective plans? That's number one. Runaway budget. I just heard our CFO state that you receive monthly reports. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
You receive monthly reports telling you the amount of revenue, the amount of expenses, yearly total to date with a comparison to the budget. You do. In terms of still having problems understanding the 1.2 mil bill, but more so in the budgets, no, I'm sorry, McInerney's audits. If I go take them back to 2008 and bring them forward, in terms of the money that was placed aside for the water, and this goes back, I believe, to 2008, 2006, when the switch was made to another water management company. There was money held in reserve, and each year subsequent to 2009, that amount declined. Why? Those are my questions. Hope you'll answer them this evening. Do I have to stand here and wait for you to
No,
answer
you don't have to
them?
stand, no.
Oh, you're going to answer them this
I'm
evening?
going through each of them.
Can Mr. McInerney answer them this evening?
Yes. Right.
Okay, thank
And
you.
regarding the corrective actions plan, the corrective action plan for the most recent budget was put before this council, and it did not pass, and it will probably come back. Last year's corrective action plan, the council did not pass. Regarding the status of updates of the corrective action plan, Councilwoman Gaunt Butler has, I would say, if we've had 22 meetings a year, she's probably asked at 18 of the meetings the status of the corrective action plan.
What meeting?
At the council meeting, she asked, is one of her general questions. I don't think she has a satisfactory answer, but Councilwoman Gaunt Butler, do you want to, in response, when you've asked that question, on the status of the corrective action. So even though it wasn't adopted, even though the corrective action plan was not adopted, there still was a corrective action plan that they could have been working towards those items. Councilwoman Gordon Butler, when you asked on the status of those items, your responses?
The response I got from Director Mapp was that they were waiting for the auditor's report. And once they got it, then they could make a comparison. But I have not gotten a definitive answer with regards to its effectiveness.
It can't be effective. The
Right.
same
My
items come up every year. You take them back to 2006, I
Ms.
see the same ones. There's only been a
Ms. Morrell,
reduction
let's
in
not,
two.
don't go back and forth, let her respond. So you really haven't gotten a definitive answer?
No, I have not gotten a definitive answer. And my last comment at the last council meeting that I was in attendance at, my response was, it seems like it's a cursory kind of response, the corrective action plan. It's a checklist, it's a thing to do, but it's not anything substantive that action is really taking place with.
Mr. McInerney, regarding to the corrective action plans in your audit remarks, do you have a response? You do. And your audit responses, I'm sorry.
Well, the corrective action plan is something generated from the city. They are in response to our comments and recommendations within the audit. So I don't, that's not within the scope of what I do. That's something that,
Have you
that's
seen
not-
in the last 2 or 3 years the response has declined? Has there been any improvement?
This year I have, yes. Listen, this has been a long struggle within the finance department to get our records much better organized. And I say this in all truth, when I came in here for the first year of doing the audit, Mr. Kelly had just left, and there was nobody in the finance department. There was one part-time person, and we were doing the audit off of green accounting paper general ledgers. I mean, we were really behind the times. It was never going to be a one-year solution. It's a multi-year solution to come from the Stone Age to where we are now. And to be honest with you, we've made great transitions. And there has been, there still needs to be, and this is just my opinion from the work that I do during the course of the audit, there still needs to be additional resources added to the finance department. There's comments in there about payroll and things along those lines. So we have been able to reduce the number of comments because of bank reconciliations have been done on a more timely basis. We have a whole new system that was inputted, that was brought aboard, a software system that has generated our general ledger and has made transactions much more timely and controllable. And so, again, we've come a long way. We're not 100% there, but we have done a lot to improve. If that answers your question.
And the 1.2, Ms. Morrell spoke about amount that was reserved that declined over the years, and then she spoke to the specific about the 1.2 million that just had to be paid out. Are they one and the same? Can you speak to that?
I'm not sure they are. To speak to the $1.2 million, there was, and I'll use the total amount, improvement authorizations within the water capital to absorb that 1.2 million. I do not recall whether or not that was encumbered, which would mean the bill was presented and it was charged against that authorization, those authorizations. So that is something I'll be glad to get back to the parties who've asked that question, personally. Secondly, as far as the reserve goes, all of those improvements, once you authorize a capital improvement, you effectively are setting up a reserve. That reserve is either funded or unfunded. So if you start to spend against it, you're reducing that reserve. You're reducing that authorization. So I'm not sure which specific reserve that you're making mention of. I would have to go back to the audit. I'd have to contact you. Okay, and I'd be glad to answer that.
And if you can, and for the knowledge of the public, great question. If you can send it to us by the council meeting on Monday, and I will read your statement into the
Certainly.
record, okay?
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Do I have,
My
you can't-
last
no.
question, and this is important. The contract with United Water, you paid them for certain services. It was revealed through Mr. Lurch's report that the services were not rendered in total. What will be the deductions from the multi-year contract, and will they, because you already paid them, will they accrue to the next contract if you're going to sign a contract with them? What happens? Because we have paid for something that we didn't receive, and if you go back to Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy, let's be honest, United Water did not clean the catch basins. It was much better when our fire department did it.
Thank you. Mr. Lurch, are you prepared to answer that question? And where, regarding your findings, the current contract, and going forward, regarding United Water?
The report we prepared on behalf of the city was for the prior contract, which I believe it expired in 2013 would be my recollection. No, 12. I'll bet you it was 2012. I have not been engaged or have I looked at anything in the subsequent contract to see whether the city received any credits. I understand the issue she's referring to, but I'm not in a position to answer that question.
Ms. McBride, Chris Mobley is generally over that area. We'll send that question to him and have him here on Monday. We went into a one-year contract with United Water after that, and I'll have Mr. Mobley address that question, because there were several different things that were going on based on the report and then how we would move going forward. Are there any other questions before we close public comments? Is there a motion to close public comments?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Coley, second by Councilwoman Butler. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So public comments are closed. Now we're going into council comments or questions. And council members? Councilman Corbett?
Well, once again, it's nothing new. Our finances continue to spiral in disarray. Part of the problem, as I see it, is that if the administration would kindly adhere to the cuts that the council continues to make year after year, it's not a complete solution to the problem, but it would help. We did this last year, and we did not get the cooperation of the administration to make the necessary salary cuts. And it's the same thing happening this year. The budget has historically never been submitted in a timely fashion. They always get an extension from the state to get the budget done. The council approved the budget in August. That left us approximately 3 or 4 months to work through the year. In the meantime, the first 7 months of the year, we're just spending blindfolded. And, the council did set money aside to hire more police officers, and as the city of Orange knows, that is something that we shouldn't take lightly, and that we need to really adhere to that and use that money to hire more police officers. And it doesn't become a great surprise to me that the administration has not adhered to providing more police officers to our police director. It seems to me that it's a intentional event for them to do, because the way I see it, the way this budget is looking, they're just going to take the money from other parts, or at least attempt to take the money from other salary departments where they have not gone over budget, and use it to offset their shortfall. They've been doing that for the last several years, but it's not the solution to the problem. We have to just stop all this unnecessary spending that we continue to do. I mean, they can provide reports all they want to the council. Doesn't stop their nature in just spending the way they want to spend. I guarantee you, if the citizens were to bombard the mayor's office, he would ignore you too and continue to spend any way that he wants to spend. That has to stop. we continue to pay these high taxes and continue not to get the services that we desire. I'm not in favor of moving any money out of salaries to offset their spending. Recreation department is just ridiculous. I mean, they just continue to spend and don't care where how they spend and what they spend it for. Now, we know that recreation is important. We know that we need to continue to try to keep our seniors active and other people. But at the same time, we have to look at what's important and what's not important and stop all this frivolous spending. It was mentioned how disorganized our finance department is, and I have seen that for myself. I've seen the general ledger from which Ms. Lascari has had to work from previous administrations. And I tell you, I don't know how you guys, that includes you, Mr. McInerney, I don't know how you guys are able to make any sense out of any of that and use actual figures. Because you can't make it out. And even the descriptions. You can't even make out the descriptions. It's gotten better, but I mean, it's just ridiculous the way you guys have to work. It doesn't make any kind of sense. That whole thing needs to be revamped and worked at in a better way. So I'm not pleased at what I've seen here. I'm afraid to see what's going to happen at the end of the year, where we'll get the actual figures and overtime and other things that are included in this budget. But it's a scary thing to look at and very disappointing. And it just breaks your heart to go through it. Thank you, Council President.
Councilwoman Eason?
I'm a little bit, I'm going to come from a different angle that Councilman Corbett took. Last year, I spent my Christmas doing a budget. And I guess I'm a little concerned because we knew when we approved that budget and the cuts that we put in for salaries, if they weren't adhered to, we were going to overrun. The finance department knew that. They didn't have to look at it every month. They didn't have to give us quarterly reports. The director who we hired for finance knew that if those cuts were not implemented, the salary account was going to be overrun. So that's why I'm with the public when they ask the question, what is the point of us going through spend all of those hours going through a budget, putting a budget together, cutting those line items so that we can save money for the city, and then none of them are acted upon? I think, and I'm saying that we should hold the Director of Finance accountable for that. Because they give us the budget, the council has the responsibility of approving it. If not, why go through the process? Why go through it? Just let them spend like they want to spend. We can't control it. And Ms. Wilson asked the question, so what are we going to do going forward? We'll sit here tonight talking about transferring dollars to the salary account. We knew we were going to have to do that when they didn't implement the cuts, but we didn't do anything about holding the mayor's feet to the fire to make him do that. So I don't know what else we're going to do. I mean, we're going to get a budget pretty soon. We'll go through those same drooling nights of being here to 11, 12 o'clock doing the same thing. And every year in December, we're at the same point. Everything is overrun, but I could see it being $100,000, but it's $507,000 overrun in salary count in administration. That's unbelievable. That's my taxpayers' dollars too. So I think we need to ask Mr. Mapp at the next council meeting a request to give us an answer. Because we get the expense report or whatever we get, but if we don't enforce anything, we still are just sitting here whistling Dixie as a council. And Ms. Lascari talks about adding resources and to the finance department. If you come into the finance department, every seat back there is occupied. What are all of those people doing that they can't help with the finances and getting the bills out on time? I'm asking that question to Ms. LaSclary. I know she probably can't answer, but it is full to capacity. So why would we add more resources when you got all every day? Basically, there's a new person in there. What are they doing?
Do you want me to answer that question?
No, I don't want you to
she's
answer that.
not.
We're gonna ask Mr. Mapp that question, because I know you're not responsible for the hiring and the resources and how they're distributed in there, but you are the CFO. And somehow or another, we have to do something about something. I don't know what it is, but if we keep hiring, the salary council keep escalating and escalate. We can't do that anymore. We need to make the people that's sitting there today accountable for what's happening with this budget and what's going on. And that's what the council needs to do. And how we figure out how we're gonna do that, there's 7 of us up here. We have to come up with a solution. Otherwise, nothing will ever change. I mean, we got more people in the law department than we've had since I've been on council. And I've been up there, 13 years? We never had that many city attorneys. So, I'm saying, we need to figure it out. And it doesn't mean adding more resources to finances. We need to make Mr. Mapp figure out how he's gonna give Ms. LaSclary some help to do what she needs to do and get those bills out on time to the vendors monthly. They need to do some work back there. And, I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Councilwoman Easton, I want the record to reflect that from our standpoint, from a legislative standpoint, when it came to the point that the line items were being overspent or the department budgets were being overspent, we had the year where we did not transfer the money because it was not something that was unforeseen. They did it. They kept the salaries. They did not adhere to the budget cuts that this council made. But also, if you recall, that this council had also passed a resolution regarding the freeze, that they stopped the salaries and all that. So instead, it's one thing for us to do something, but if the administration is not adhering to what we're doing.
I understand, but I don't need.
No, I just want to say, let the record reflect that it's not like we're just sitting here and one of the questions.
I said that.
No,
we did our due diligence. Right. We worked through Christmas last year to cut the budget.
And then
we did what
legislation
we
we passed
so
as well.
I don't need that editorialized. I'm just putting that on the record. We have to do something. I don't know what it looks like or what it is going to be, but something has to be done.
Councilman Corbett?
Yes, Council President, thank you. There's one thing that I meant to mention in my statement, which I overlooked, and that is if any department goes over budget knowingly, it is criminal. And we need to do something about that. If it's criminal, then we need to address it.
And if you recall, we did address it, and we put forth through the resolution that we did address it. And I will come back to Mr. Lurch in terms of, because it's one thing what this body has to do, but we don't do the administration of the city, and in terms of the hiring and firing or how the money is spent, you know, it's way beyond. We show up and we get a call if there's a new employee.
Right.
So I just don't want, out of our frustration, that we fail to say that this council is monitoring, that we're managing, and that what we're putting forth is not being adhered
right.
to.
We're doing the absolute best that we can, even through legislation, and it's still being disregarded. And that's why I stand firmly on saying if anyone goes, if any department head or anyone goes over budget knowingly, if it's criminal, then charges need to be brought forth. Because, I mean, what other option do we have? We have run out of options.
And Councilwoman Summers Johnson, I'm coming. And just to kind of expand what Councilman Corbett said, that if there is a budgeted item and a budget approved, it would seem that the administration would come to say that after the budget was passed, there was an unforeseen expenditure, and that knowing that this budget will come up, and we have yet to have that type of communication with this council.
Right. But
we always just get here, and that the expenditures are way over.
But keep in mind, those unexpected expenditures has absolutely nothing to do with salaries.
No, I'm just saying there has never been a conversation to come up to put us on notice that something happened that will cause, that when we get to November, and that's why.
Right.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson?
I'm saying I can't even sit still. I feel like a little kid that just can't sit still. I am like so embarrassed. I feel like I don't even know why. Okay, I had a South Ward meeting yesterday, and I have residents there. Some of them are here tonight, and I just knew they were going to come here and really, get a lot of the answers that they wanted to get. Many of the people that really need to be here are not here. This prescription, I mean, are the people alive? I mean, how do you, this is the first time I'm seeing anything like this. And this is like frustrating. Then the residents don't have it. So we're just yelling out numbers. They're trying to take notes. I don't know why they need an Oprah request to see, this type of stuff. Like, this is just, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And I'm just speaking, I'll speak as Jamie, which is bad. But I don't know what I would do if I was a resident, and I feel like numbers are being shouted out. We're talking about millions of dollars. If we take money from someplace, it's a position that we still need to fill. Like, I don't understand. I'm lost. I know the residents are lost. It's frustrating. I mean, I'm telling you, it's frustrating as a teacher because I give answers. Parents ask me questions, I give them answers. I can never say I don't know. I can never say I'm going to get back to you. I better answer right then and there what's going to be done. And I just feel like we're no further today than we were last week or the last council meeting or the meeting before that. And I don't know, I just hear a lot of excuses on why things are not done, and it's embarrassing. And, I keep looking this way. I don't want to look that way because I don't want to look in my residents' faces because I literally said it, not on the record. There was no one taking notes, but that they would get some answers today. And I'm just like, they didn't get any answers. They didn't get the answers. I know they didn't get the answers they were looking for. You can't tell somebody you don't know how many bills are going to come to you. You can't tell somebody that you can't really budget for how many people are going to come to argue about their taxes. Like, can we look at last year or the year before that to get an idea? When this jumped from 92,000 up to 150,000, that wasn't a red flag, and then it went up in September. Like, what happened in September that everyone needed so many prescriptions? I mean, this is like mind-boggling. This is just, I'm like, I can't even sit still. So I really don't have anything else to say.
And council members, I don't mean to jump in. I just want to kind of be right over
Come
way.
on.
Councilwoman Summers, the clerk's office, no member of the public will have to Oprah this report. This report is not a report put together by the administration. This is at the request of the city council to our budget consultant, presented to the council. The council will make this report available, and I'm confident that I can say to Ms. Smith that if anybody comes to the clerk's office tomorrow after 12 noon, there'll be a pile of them sitting on the desk.
But this is the problem that I'm having. If you're not a school teacher, you don't get off work in time to come to the clerk's office.
It's available. If we can upload it. And
this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I got emails today of residents that wanted to look at this stuff before they came here because they can't look at it. They can't look at it and learn about it for the first time while they're sitting here.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, I know people don't get off at 3 and 4 o'clock to get there, and it's just, to me, it just seems unfair. Like, it doesn't seem right.
And Councilwoman Summers Johnson, we're agreeing with you. And this council, this is something that we'll do going forward. This has not been done. This is the first time this type of budget review has been done. So we will look forward to make this a practice.
I just want to be able to tell my residents that they'll be able to see stuff like this.
And what I can assure you that I will have Ms. Smith scan it in so that anybody that asks you, you can just email it to them, that you can have it to them electronically. But something that could be a function of the administration is not. So we went to our budget consultant and asked them to prepare this report so that we can give to the citizens. What I will say, and if you have gotten the report that's generated from the administration that comes to the council meeting, It's not a simplified report where
No.
you can look at summaries.
Right.
It's almost a report. To Ms. Morell's question, the monthly report we get is roughly about this, and they're kind of really accounting reports that you have to get through. They're not simplified summary reports. And the budget consultant has put this in a summarized report, in a summary report that we can give to each council member. That again, it will be available in the clerk's office to come pick up. Each council member will have it electronically that you can send out, and we will make the recommendation to put the report up on the website.
Okay.
But this is something that we have done because we've heard the questions and concerns of our citizens, so we're responding to that question.
Thank you.
So this will be available.
Thank you.
And this is hot off the press. And so hot off the press, one day the public will have it.
Okay.
Okay, Councilman.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Johnson.
Councilwoman Williams, one real quickly.
Councilwoman Eason.
And I agree with Councilwoman Johnson, Summers Johnson.
Whatever you want. Whatever.
But one of the requests we can make is, I don't know if we can do it by this council meeting, but maybe the next one, because we have a council meeting Monday night. Put in a request to have the state come in and explain how the health benefits work and why there is such a spike. And I think we should schedule that for the next, we can get a contact, I think, through Mr. Lurch.
Okay.
and have
And
them
regarding
let-
health benefits?
Yeah,
Okay.
and do matters for discussion, and the public can come back and they can explain why there's such a spike month to month, but it has to come from them because they are the provider of the health insurance and the prescription plan. And they do use Express Scripts, but Express Scripts, I think, is supposed to make it cheaper. But I can just say for me, with my medication, it doubled, my
I know, my
copay
parents did.
doubled.
Right, my parents
It doubles. So, and I think that's what happened with everybody. You were paying like $7, $8, all of a sudden they're telling us now, I just got a new notification that
15,
if you not gonna use, if there is no generic and you're not using generic, my prescription gonna go to like $100 a month.
Right.
So there's another spike that's
Okay.
coming because that's the nature of, so I think we need to maybe for the next
For the
council
December
meeting,
meeting, for first
have the
meeting,
state
okay.
come in and everybody this year can come back to that council meeting and we can get most of the questions answered as to why there's such a spike in healthcare.
And what we commit for the first meeting in December for the matters discussion, we'll have the state health benefits representative, Mr. Lurch, if you can see if they're available for the first meeting in December, just comply. But we'll set that first Tuesday in December, and that'll be solely for the first meeting in December. Councilman Johnson?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. The people of Orange deserve better. Just a few months ago, I was sitting out there in those chairs as a concerned resident, and I signed up for this. As of July 1st, I became a council person. And boy, I had no idea when it comes to this whole financial matters of the city, how things are dealt with cavalierly, and there's no cohesiveness, or should be a solid cohesiveness in everybody that's involved, trying to make sure that the budget that's introduced is adhered to. I'm not often, as a professional, caught in a situation where I'm almost feel helpless. Being on the council in such a short period of time, trying to force a bell curve to learn this stuff and to adequately participate in the whole budget process. But we're hit with so many different things that are concerns and matters that affect the budgets or just affect the spending. It seems like every council meeting, another bomb gets dropped on us. And we're dealing with stuff from Hawkins administration, Mims Hackett administration, in addition to trying to move forward and have a forward-thinking process and doing things through the bond. I apologize to the people of Orange, and I'm going to fight to learn as much as I possibly can going forward, so I can, this time next year when I'm sitting here, I'm a little bit stronger and my commitment to be a council person, and I'll have answers. But right now, it's just that gray area, that gap where I just feel kind of helpless, where I can't offer anything, any solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gordon Butler?
Thank you, Council President. Again, I am quite disturbed and frustrated with the information that was presented to us this evening. I have been one of those voices that have been echoing about the corrective action plan and about us planning in general. Seems to be no proactive planning done with regards to a spending plan, and that has been a concern of mine for a while now. Whether it's the bond, whether it's the budget, whatever it is, we need a plan, and we need to stick to the plan. So that's a concern of mine. It will continue to be a concern of mine. And I think that right about now, I agree with Councilwoman Eason and Councilwoman Summers Johnson. We're going to have to start looking at some unconventional ways to make sure that we give the best service to our citizens. So that's where my concerns lie, and that's my position. Thank you, Council President.
I agree.
Councilman Coley?
Thank you, Council President. First of all, I want to apologize for being late, family emergency. I just want to say that, again, I want to echo what Councilwoman Summers Johnson said. It's embarrassing. No one from the administration is here. The City Council, we don't write checks. We don't do the bill list. The administration, they write the checks. No one is here to answer any questions. This is just shameful. It's really shameful that people here cannot get the answers to simple questions. This is just nothing more than a shell game. When I was younger, I used to ride the 21 bus. In the back of the bus, the guys used to be playing 3 Chord Molly. This is it. This is crazy. There need to be more accountability from the administration to the people, taxpayers. My taxes went up as well. I am upside down in my mortgage. My taxes still went up. I understand. I feel everybody. Something has to be done to hold the administration feet to the fire. I wasn't here last year when this budget was passed, but there was some salary cuts that was just overlooked. They just said, the hell with it, we're going to do what we want to do. And that has to stop. And again, Councilman Corbett, I don't know, can criminal charges be brought? I don't know. But something has to be done to make sure that this administration adheres to the budget that is presented and that is passed. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you very much, Councilman Coley. I want to say for the public, I do want to acknowledge that we probably had the finance meeting back in October and suggested that a month ago, and we've been announcing at every meeting that we were going to have this budget review. I do want to thank that, and I want to acknowledge that every department head was noted and asked to be here. This would be like a budget hearing. It's a budget review. And if there were, as our budget consultant asked, stated there were over expenditures, that department head or their representative would be here to defend that budget. And I want to thank the fire department is represented tonight, the finance department is represented tonight, and the law department is represented. And of course, our budget consultant and our auditor are both here tonight. The email went out to everybody, to the mayor on down, to ask that the departments be here to explain to the citizens in terms of a budget that was passed and where we're at in this budget, and possibly to even say, heads up, this is what's going to happen in 2015. Clerk's office did call and send a reminder out about the meeting again, and we stated it at the last meeting. And Mr. Dennis was here, and we stated, and even asked Mr. Dennis when he made his statement as a citizen on behalf of the commercial owners in the city of Orange, if he could even come back at this meeting and state his concerns, and he's here tonight. So it has been asked and asked and asked if we can have a meeting focused on the budget, the spending, and have a solution-based meeting. And from that call, the clarion call, again, I will state that the people that are here are the fire department, the finance department, the law department, our budget consultant, auditor, and of course, the city council and the clerk's department. And citizens pay attention to that. And again, the municipal finances are not the same way a private business would handle it, but there is a way to work where the administration is working with the city council to ensure that we're bringing forth the best services to the people that we serve. Councilwoman Summer Johnson, I don't want to just talk for you, but she had her ward meeting last night, and I think the call that out of many calls that she stated to me, the people want the administration and the city council members to work together, and we have to work together to serve you. Essentially, we work for you, and we need to be doing the business of the city. I want to thank the budget consultant for putting this report together. When you get the report, that's going to be in the clerk's office, or if you get it via email through one of the council members that you requested. If you have questions, submit your questions and let us try to have those questions answered. Our goal here tonight is to just to let you know what's going on financially with the city, to let you know where we are headed, and to offer solutions to how we can better serve and make the city of Orange the great city that it should be and it is. So this will conclude our comments tonight. I do want to have, I apologize, I did not allow Ms. Lascari to respond. So before we close, Mrs. Lascari is our Chief Financial Officer. Mrs. Lascari, do you want to make a statement, questions, or anything? Speak.
I have to confess that I am disappointed. I realize the fire department is represented here tonight as well, but essentially I'm the only person here who's representing all of the departments. And what I hear from all of you, I understand your frustration. But when I hear things misrepresented, misquoted, I hear a lot of criticism. It hurts me. It hurts me deeply because I have been working really, really hard for 3 years to clean up the books. Yes, what you saw was what I inherited 3.5 years ago. That's not the way the books are now. That is not the way the books are now. They're very clear. If you want a report, it can be got. That's not... I feel very disappointed. I feel violated, in a sense, that the work that I'm doing is belittled so much. I work really hard, and I don't think that any of you realize that. And this report, taken from projections, yes, there are over expenditures in the salary accounts. I don't know what I can do about that. I don't have the authority to fire people, okay? I don't have that authority.
We're not. Wait,
But
I'm sorry.
I am being criticized. I feel like I am being criticized, and I don't appreciate it. I would really like it if we could learn how to work together in a more productive and cooperative way than what we do. And I understand your frustration. I wish that I had a magic wand to make it all right. But we have to be able to talk to each other in a more
Council members, I remind you,
way.
wait, I'm sorry, Mrs. Garrett, this is being recorded. So if somebody goes back and listens to the recording, you're going to get 10 people speaking at one time. Allow Ms. Lascari to continue. Are you finished? Please allow her, just as she listened, allow her to talk.
Tensia, those
Councilwoman
desks,
Eason.
excuse me, Councilwoman Eason.
And
those
let me just
desks
say
have
that,
only been filled for 2 months.
and let me just clarify, Councilwoman Eason and Ms. Lascari probably sit in the office and talk time after time, so that's what the level of comfortability of calling her, Cincy. So if she called you, it's more of a level of comfort rather than, I just want to clarify it. No, I'm clarifying it for everybody, not for you, Councilwoman, for everybody that may not know.
Those desks have only been filled by people who are actually able to pick up and do the job without being totally supervised for 2 months. So, 2 months, that's all. 2 months. I've had staff to work with.
Let her finish, Councilwoman. Let her finish, Councilwoman.
Hold it.
Councilwoman
This is
Eason.
not what we're discussing.
But Councilwoman
We're here to
Eason-
discuss the budget.
Right.
I made a statement. Let's move on.
But Councilwoman,
I'm
allow.
not saying to defend her. I'm saying she wants more help.
Councilwoman, let her, Councilwoman Eason, please.
Councilwoman Williams.
Councilwoman,
this
allow,
is becoming a
Councilwoman Eason, I understand, and I'm not, just allow Ms. Lascari to make her statement. What statement? Ms. Lascari.
I'm just saying that it's that kind of statement that can be very, very hurtful and be, and
But it's
completely
not directed at you. It's not
Councilwoman.
directed at you.
And
yes, it
It's
is.
directed at the whole. I said Mr. Mapp. I never said Mr. Lascari.
Ms.
Did I?
Lascari,
I said
Councilwoman-
Mr. Mapp.
Councilwoman
I never asked you
Eason.
to respond.
Councilwoman Eason, allow Ms.
And I
Lascari.
stick by my statement.
Okay.
We still need to figure out how those people back there. That's
Councilwoman
fine.
Eason, allow Ms. Lascari to conclude. Are you finished, Ms. Lascari?
Yes, I'm finished.
Council members, and Ms. Lascari, and if anybody's been in the finance office, and Ms. Lascari's in the office with her head into the, working at her desk. And Ms. Lascari, I will speak on behalf of the council that the concerns, statements that this council have made have not been directed to you. And while you may be here to represent various departments in the administration, in our opinion, and I can clearly say, we don't think that's fair, that the burden should be all put on you. One of the examples that I will give you that, and I want to say specifically to the finance department, that there was a lot of consideration taken when there was a request for positions to be filled in the finance department, and those positions were considered and filled. So, and I think with the responses, if we're looking at a budget and if there was a recommendation for various reasons that a salary should be $50,000, and when we look at a report and the salary is $80,000, we realize that's not in your control, but that is something that came up in the report tonight. That's what's being addressed. So that, it's not personal, it's a general to what we're saying.
We should just stop. The more we talk, the more embarrassing it gets.
And in closing,
We should stop.
and in closing, Mr. Lurch, and Mr. McInerney, do you have any closing before we finish?
No, ma'am.
Mr. McInerney, I just want to remind everybody that the City Council of Orange generally meets on the first and third Tuesday. November is a different month because of election and because of the state meeting. So the council meeting will be Monday, November 17th, this coming Monday at 7:00 p.m., not Tuesday. Monday, November 17th at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Wait,
Wait a minute, I need to make
second.
one announcement that I was supposed to send you guys an email. Our pastor, Reverend Dr. Guyton, would like each of you to come to our 72nd anniversary on Sunday at 9:30.
This
He asked
Sunday?
me to extend the invitation. This Sunday, one service at 9:30. We're not sending out personal invites from his mouth through my mouth. Just come, and after that, we're gonna cut the ribbon for our new nonprofit. Councilman Johnson, what is it called? The new nonprofit?
I don't know.
But we're gonna cut the ribbon, so he said if you wanna come out, take a picture. Right after service, we'll cut the ribbon, and then you can go down and eat dinner.
Councilwoman Easton, just for clarification, I heard you say this Sun, excuse me, the meeting.
9:30.
Okay, 9:30 at St. Matthew AM, there's an extension to the city council to extend the service, 72nd anniversary. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Councilwoman Easton, second by Councilwoman Summers Johnson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 8:52.